Hi, this is Deborah Clutter. I have another 24-inch block for you today. This is a 24-inch Lone Star, and I'm excited about this, even though it's in Christmas colors, because I did not finish my Christmas quilt, and I was going to do one last star before Christmas, and it just didn't happen. So this whole Christmas quilt will be ready for next Christmas, and I just needed one more block. I was going to originally get a paper piece block that I was going to do for you guys, but I decided to do this Lone Star. I haven't made a Lone Star in a long time. I have made lots of Lone Star quilts and usually bigger ones, but this was kind of fun to make this little small one. And this one has a 3-inch border, and it has 4 diamonds and the big diamond, and it has no Y seams. And so in the video, I'm going to show you how to make this center nice and flat so it's not bulky and you can actually quilt over it without any problems. Because I've had to quilt other people's Lone Stars or Lone Stars that I have found that are really bulky in the middle, and the long arm will not get through it. So you have to kind of quilt around it, and I don't really like the way that looks. So I'll show you how to manage your seams so you get it nice and flat in the middle. I'm also going to show you how to cut the diamonds on your Auccuquilt, but you can cut these diamonds with a 2.5-inch strip cutter. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and we'll also show you how to use just your rotary cutter to cut the diamonds. So you can cut them on your Auccuquilt strip cutter, or you can cut them by hand, whichever one you want. It was actually a lot faster to do it on the Auccuquilt. It was the first time I've tried that, and I really liked it, and I'll probably do it again. Just don't get them mixed up with the orientation you put them on there, or accidentally put them on the 60-degree line, which I did. And you'll see that in the video. I'm going to show you all my mistakes because I made a lot. I just had one of those days where everything was kind of going wrong. So, so you're going to probably see some of that in the video. The pattern is in the description. Go download the pattern. There is not detailed instructions like on how to manage the inside seams or how to cut it on the Auccuquilt, but all the measurements for the quilt are in the pattern. So we have the Christmas colors, but I also made another block, the very first one that I did to test the pattern. And this one is in red, black, and white. And so you can kind of see what it looks like in different colors. And of course you can make these, opposite colors, or you can just mix them all up and make them all different colors, whatever you want. I kind of like this pattern, but I mean, there's a lot of ways to make your Lone Star, but give it a try. You guys will like making a Lone Star, I promise. Thanks. Here's the supplies you're going to need for doing this 24-inch Lone Star block. And I did add a border on this block to make it 24 inches. You can make one that's the same color as the background if you want. So you're going to need 3 strips, and I have decided to make my inside this sparkly silver, and this will be the red, and this will be the green. And I just need one more Christmas block for the Christmas quilt I did. And I know it's not Christmas anymore, but hey, it will be next year. So I need one 2.5-inch by width fabric. Width of fabric means it's from salvage to salvage. I need 2 of the red, so anything that goes in this spot, I need 2 of those, 2.5 inches by width of fabric. And then I need one green for the tips, and that again is 2.5 inches by width of fabric. So you're going to need, for the outside edges, and this is going to be no Y seams, and this is the first time I've ever made a Lone Star without Y seams, and I think Y seams are easy. I don't know, but I'm trying it this way. It was okay. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I probably would go back to doing Y seams. But I think this is easier for most people. So you're going to need 4 blocks that are 6.5 inches wide, or 6.5 inches square for the background fabric. Oh, I got them all mixed up. And these are 4 7/8 inches square. And then you're going to need some fabric for the outside border, and these are 3 inches by width of fabric, and I have 3 of them. So I do need to cut these in half, so just layer them up as best you can, or you can choose to cut them 1 at a time or 2 at a time, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm usually in a hurry, so sometimes I don't know if being in a hurry makes it easier or not. Okay. And then you're just going to cut these diagonally. And these will be for the middle, so each side of the middle. And then you're going to do the same. Can't really do that with fabric like you do a deck of cards, huh? Sometimes it kind of works. Alright. Alright, and these are going to be for the outside corners. So these will go like that. It seems kind of silly, you have to cut them apart to put them back together, but that's exactly what is going to happen. And these kind of go like that. Alright, so now that we have everything cut out, what we want to do next is we need to create our strip pairs. So we're going to get our 2.5 inch strips, and you need the one that is for the center and one of the red ones. And we're going to put them right sides together, and we're going to stagger them about 2 inches down. And we're going to sew these together on the long edge. And the same, so the center 2.5 inch strip on the bottom, and the red one on the top. And then for this one, it's going to be the red one on the bottom. And then the green one on top. And like I said, you just want to stagger them about 2 inches, and then sew those together. And then when they're sewn together, I'll come back and I'll show you how to cut them. So I have my strip sets sewn together, and just make sure you don't stretch them or do anything weird when you're sewing them together. And go ahead and press them. I press this one this way, and I pressed this one in the same direction. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these. We need 8 diamonds from each one of these, but I'm going to show you how to cut one strip on the Auccuquilt Go strip cutter, the 2.5 inch strip cutter, and then I'll also show you how to cut this one just with a rotary cutter. So I'm right-handed. This is the way my strip needs to go when I'm cutting it, but I need a 45-degree angle in this direction. And I could do it on my mat over here, but I can't quite, do it very well with the because I'm right-handed. So I do have a 45 on my ruler, so I'm going to line that up with one of the seams, and might have to cut a little bit off. It looks like it kind of went downhill on that side, and then I'm just going to cut that at a 45. Then I'm going to turn my strip back around. And then I can either use my smaller ruler. Don't have a 2.5-inch ruler, but I'll just use this one. And then align it on the 2.5-inch mark. You could use your grid also if you wanted on your cutting mat. And then you're just going to cut 8 of those. And then next I'll show you how to cut these a little bit faster with your Auccuquilt strip cutter. Alright, I have my Auccuquilt die. This is a 2.5-inch die. And this is a 3 cutter. They do make one that cuts 2. And so I am going to go ahead and place my strips on here. Now, I want you to be careful. There's a 60, there's a 45, and there's a 30. I just cut these a few minutes ago on the 60, and they were wrong. And it took me a while to figure out what I had done wrong. We want to place it on the 45. So I'm just going to place it over right next to the 45 and make sure my selvage is past the cutters. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it along this edge past the cutter. Here's the cutter. So I want to make it longer than the cutter. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to place more on here. Make sure you get them positioned in the right spot. I still have it a little bit there. And then you're going to place your next one over the other cutter. And then you want to cut this one. This is the way I found it the easiest way to do. And make sure you give yourself enough room because you're cutting it at an angle, so make sure that you have enough room while you're doing this. Now, so you can't put the last piece down here. So what I've done is I put the last piece over the middle and just kind of lined it up with the seams on one of these other pieces, or both. Just like that. And just lay it on there like that. And then go ahead and put your top on. So it should look something like that. And I'm going to take this to the cutter and I'll be right back. Well, let's hope I cut it right this time. So you're going to want to slide this off. Never pull up because there's a lot of static in these and it just picks it up when you do that. So these are all our scraps on the edge. I don't need those, but look at all these beautiful diamonds we have. And they're looking like they're the right diamonds this time. And we should have, I think we have 9 diamonds. One more thing I want to talk about. I just cut these and they don't match because I had cut these with my rotary cutter. And so in order to get it to match the right angle, I needed to turn all my strips over, and I had done these all right side. So if you're cutting everything on your Auccuquilt die, it's fine. You can put them all the same way. Just make sure you're consistent when you're putting them on the die. So if you hand cut some and then put some on your die, just know that you may need to turn them over. And you can check that by just laying it the direction of the cutters and see if it's going to match up. For instance, this is going to be where the green needs to go and this needs to go here. this way it doesn't work. You can kind of see that. This way it works. Oh, sorry, this way. See, it's matching the seam line over here. So just an FYI, make sure you cut everything in the same direction. So I have all my pieces cut again, and now they're going in the right direction, and our diamond should look like that. This is the inside, this is the outside, and we're going to put them together at the sewing machine like this. And then we're going to sew 1/4 inch. Now you can see these little dog ears hanging off the corner, and so you're supposed to get 1/4 inch. So you're supposed to slide it to 1/4 inch and sew right in the V all the way down. I don't usually have a lot of luck doing that. I mean, it's like 50-50. Sometimes it's better than 50-50, but so I prefer to take my little trimming tool and trim all my edges. So for this one, this side, it's going to be in this direction, and I would just stack a couple of them together and trim the dog ear off. And for this one, you can lay them on top of each other to figure out which direction you need to trim your dog ears, because it can get confusing. So this one needs to be in this direction. I don't know, sometimes, you know, I used to, when I was a beginner sewer, I always thought all this prep sometimes was just too much work, but I don't know. For me, it just makes it easier, and then they lay right where they're supposed to, and I don't have to guess. You know, I have to try to stretch it or make it do what I want it to do. It just goes where it needs to go, and then it matches up a lot better. So I'll take this to the sewing machine and I'll show you how I'm going to sew them together. All right, we're ready to sew these together, and I have already pinned these in the middle, and you just need to stick your pin in right at that seam line, 1/4 inch away from the edge, and match it on the other side. Now, I normally don't stick it in and then go like this, because it shifts the fabric a little bit when you do that. So I usually just stick it in and then pin it down at the bottom. So these are all ready to go, and this side matches and this side matches, and all I have to do is start sewing 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to continue sewing these, and we'll take a look at them when they're done. All right, all of these are done, and we just have to cut them apart. And the thing I do like about this baby lock, the side cutter is really sharp, and you can just use it to take apart your things. And I did leave the pins in these when I sewed it. Normally I just pin it so that it's barely sticking over the edge, so it's not much of it is in the way of the needle. It's a bad habit, I guess. And by the way, that is not why my Bernina is not working. I mean, it's working, it's just the cutter is not behaving well. So let me turn on the iron, and we'll take a look at these, and they look really good. So I'm just going to kind of pop these seams a little bit on this side, so that when I iron this, So I didn't quite iron the seams so that I didn't iron them opposite each other so that I could do this correctly. So I think I'll just, so on the last one, I ironed the seams opposite of each other so that when I popped them open, I could press this side this way and this side this way, but I did not do this correctly, and so it's not going to do that right. And so it's going to be a little bit more bulky if I do it this way. So not quite sure what I want to do here. Let's see. I'll just do that. I'll just trim it a little bit and then roll it. All right, so now it's not as bulky right here in the middle. Normally it's going to come out better, and I still didn't get that done very well, but that's gonna just have to stay. The same way you would do a 4-patch, and this is really not any different than a regular 4-patch, except for it's a diamond. And then just continue and finish ironing all those up. All right, we're ready to sew these together. Just divide your diamonds into 2 stacks of 4 and arrange them like I have them right now. Take your small little triangles. You need 4 on this side and 4 on this side, and they go just like that. The long edge is going to go next to this long edge. Your bigger triangles are going to go on the shorter edge on the side here, and they're going to point up. And this one is going to be opposite. Now I did notch all my corners to make this easier. You can choose to do that, but that's why I bought this thing. And we're going to do all of the inside ones first. And so you want to do these and make sure you get them on there right. And as you can see, when I notch the corners, it fits in there nice. And it makes it a lot easier, or at least it makes it easier for me. So you want to start from this end and not at the point, because that'll get turned inside your sewing machine, and then you're not going to be happy about it. But see how this lines up really well over here and over here, and it was easy to sew. And I did fix my corner inch, so I think it's a little bit better now. And then I'm just going to continue to sew all of these. I want to sew these and then sew these. So don't mix them up. Make sure you got these all done, and then do all of these, and then we'll come back and press them. Okay, so you should have both sides done, and iron these. And I think I ironed this wrong. I think they're supposed to be yeah, you need to iron one side opposite the other, and I'll go ahead and do that real quick. And then we're going to start sewing this other side on. All right, I have it ironed in the right direction, and I trimmed all my little dog ears off this side, and you can trim these off of this side also. The other one was in the way of my sewing, and so you're going to take the short side right here, and you're going to sew it on to each side of this middle, or the diamond on this side. So this side should match up, and it should match up over here. And go ahead and sew that. So go ahead and sew all of these, and like I said, don't get them mixed up, and then sew all of these. Okay, I have both sides finished, and I did press all these seams going in the same direction. Get this one a little bit neater. Now we're just going to match these seams so we can form a square. So we'll just start sewing these together. And I am going to get my pins and nest those seams, and then just pin it. And then you want to nest these seams. And if you want to pin this, you can. Sometimes those little tips are hard to get lined up. I'm just going to put a pin right there. And this one should be fine. And then we'll just take it to the sewing machine, and you might want to use a leader, which I'm not very good about doing, but when you're trying to sew a triangle like this, it will get caught under your machine. But this is the thing I don't like about the sewing machine in particular, is when I go over seams, it seems to wobble. And I don't like that, so I'm going to have to resew that one. My Bernina doesn't have that problem, so it works out a lot better. Okay, so you're going to sew these all together and hopefully match the seams. And then you're going to take it to your iron. Let me move some of this out of the way. Bring my iron over here so you can see what I'm doing. I actually had to go back to my little Panasonic iron because I had the little Alicio project iron, and it doesn't have an automatic shut-off. I left it on one day. I don't know how many days it was on, and it kind of put a discolor on this mat, and that just scares me. This one has an automatic shut-off, so I'm going to use this one. And you want to iron this seam open. I mean, I didn't iron any of the other seams open. I don't normally iron seams open because my long arm quilter and open seams are harder to stitch in the ditch, and so I like them better when they're just to one side. But for this, we need to iron them open if you want the center to lay flat. All right, so now you're going to take your scissors and you're going to clip this into a V. And it should look just like that. And make sure you do this because it will lay a lot flatter, and it'll be easier to put together if you clip this into a V. So this is what your block should look like when you're done. And you know, by using that little clipper, all of these are pretty much even and they're not off, so I think that works out better. 'Cause sometimes when you're just trying to guess, it doesn't come out right. So I think this block is really pretty. I love this. I think it's Michael Miller frost fabric. It is so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the blocks, and I'll show you what we're going to do after we get those done. All right, we're ready to sew this block together, and I just want to show you my ironing mat. So this is what happened to it when I left that iron on. And I can actually see some discoloration on my wood on my table too. So yeah, you got to be careful with your irons. And it scared me to death. So we're just going to arrange our block like this. Wow, I think that looks pretty good. Of course, you guys cannot see the whole one. There we go. Yeah, I think that turned out really pretty, and I think it's going to look really good. So one thing I want to talk about, when you're ironing your seams open, you need to use a shorter stitch length. I have sewn all of these together with a 2.0, so it's going to be fine, but make sure you don't use a 2.5 because that's too loose for an open seam. And so we're just going to sew these together. You're going to sew this one together and then sew this one together, and then we'll sew them all together after that. And if you ironed your seams correctly, they should kind of nest. Oops. Make sure you pin it right too. I'm off today. I don't know what is going on. I've had a very weird week. I'm really tired. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sew it out. But you do need to iron these seams open also. And since I didn't sew these in the right direction, I'm going to have to cut them. So go ahead and iron these open, just like you did before. You're going to iron them open, and then you're going to clip the seam again. All right, so I want to trim these seams also, just like I did before. And you're only trimming the seam allowance, so don't trim your block. I have quilted other people's Lone Star quilts, and their center seams have been so thick that I couldn't get my long arm over them, so you have to kind of stitch around them. So this will make it nice and flat, and you can stitch over it. So you're going to want to stick your pin right at where these two come together. I can get it in there. That looks like that. And then you want to match it to the other side. And then I'm going to stick a pin on each side. And then I can pull that pin out. And so we're going to go ahead and add our borders. You're going to need 2 border pieces that measure 19.5, and you're going to put one on the top and one on the bottom. And then you're going to need 2 pieces that are 24.5. So I'm just going to clip these on here. So here's my finished Lone Star, and I think it looks really pretty. The borders add some stabilization to the block, and the block is laying nice and flat, and I don't have any weirdness going on, and I think it looks really beautiful. So I hope you guys give this a try and make a small Lone Star 24-inch, and you can use it with the rest of the 24-inch blocks that I have on my channel. And I hope you like this. Give me a thumbs up or a comment or a like. Thanks. So this star I cut out of the pieces I cut wrong. So I cut some more and made this star. And I sewed this star together without clipping any of the edges. I just sewed it together with the little point sticking out, and it did fine. You're going to see a couple of places like this where it doesn't match up real well, and I think that's the part that bugs me, is when the sides don't match up. Actually, only have a few. There's one right there and right there. Well, I think that one just needs to be ironed, right? And one over here. So just a few of them. The centers all match, but so anyway, you know, you can sew them together with the little points sticking out, or you can clip them, whatever you want to do. I actually think this star will look pretty when I'm finished. I'm going to do some set-in seams on this one. And so here is the one I did at 60 degrees. And so if I put in triangles on the corners, they'll make a hexagon. And you could make it square by adding another half square triangle on 4 of the corners. So we'll see how I'm going to finish this one up, but I will make this one for sure. So here's the 2 Lone Star blocks side by side. This is the one that has the split seams, and here is one that has the Y seams, and this one turned out really pretty, and this one is a different color combination because I just made this from the leftover stuff I had that I cut wrong, and I just put it in the set-in seams or the Y seams. Now I think this one is easier if you're doing a lot of blocks. I like this one better for quilting, but I mean, they both turned out really nice, so it's just whatever you prefer.